Good morning, everybody. Happy Monday. This is your wake up call. I am Lynn Dupuis, and we are going to be talking governance today. I hope you had a great weekend. We spent the weekend closing up our camp. So we have a camp not far away, and we had to close up the trailer and all of that. And it's always a sad time. It's a transition time in the fall where we have to go through that and get ready for the next season. So we are starting that, and now if you look in the chat, you'll see that I included the new calendar for October, and it's a whole slew of topics that we're going to be talking about. Some are really punchy, some I'm really enjoying preparing for you. And today is one of those examples. We're going to be talking about governance um, mistakes, things that you're doing at your board that you might want to tweak. And I'm going to talk about solutions for those mistakes that might be found at your board level. I've got my coffee this morning. I hope that you have your coffee. Good morning, Numbers Girl. Good morning, Mel. So yes, we're talking about 4 major governance mistakes and how we can propose solutions at the board level. So, if you're not in a board where they have regular training or so on, we're going to want to talk about that. And we're going to talk to you we're going to present how you're going to be talking about that. But I hope that you're able to at least bring up these topics so that you can discuss the solutions at the board if you're feeling like tweaks could be made. So 4 major governance mistakes we're going to be talking about today. So we're going to be talking about lack of training, all right? Lack of training. We're going to be talking about lack of direction, all right? And we're going to be talking about lack of implementation and the lack of results, lack of getting those results and monitoring those results. All right. So those are 4 things that we're going to be looking at. So the first one is the lack of training. All right. The lack of training can touch so many topics. And you're going to want to train your board, and you're going to be wanting to propose this to your board that you should be better trained and you should have education to build up that confidence within your board. Because if you don't have that, you have confusion and not everybody's understanding their roles and responsibilities. And so, those topics, those education topics can be on things like conflict of interest. We hear a lot about that. We hear about, processes for meetings and AGMs and how do we vote and how do we keep people in line. We talked about that on Friday. If you wanted some hot takes on that, we talk about keeping people in line at the board. So that education piece is going to help alleviate those struggles when there's those questions coming up and you're not sure how to answer them. Good morning, everybody, by the way. I see you popping in there. If you're watching this on the rebroadcast, hello, put in a comment if you're here. All right. So the lack of training can be countered by investing in that skill development. So bringing education pieces, having people come in and train, building a knowledgeable board is going to help you create better discussions, understanding where you are, and in the end, your board is going to feel way more engaged. So creating those training programs, and that can be as minimal as 15 minutes every meeting. You can have some training, some education pieces like looking over certain policies or how-to manual or whatnot. We offer that kind of training here at LMD Solutions, and it's very helpful. It's great to have Governance 101 overviews of what you're working on and what you're working with, your tools. It's really great. And then your board feels like they can tackle those issues and the things that they're working on. So that's super important. The next one I talked about was lack of direction. All right. And you might think, oh, that's easy, like a strategic plan, right? We should all have a strategic plan. Agreed. Strategic plan is one way. Now, here on the wake up call and in LMD Solutions, I want to instill the idea that the strategic plan is not the end all be all. And if you look in the calendar, you're going to see that we're going to talk about that. in a week or so, in a week or two, I think. And the strategic plan is not the only measure and is not the only tool that is going to guide your organization. There are policies, procedures, there's reporting schedules, calendars, and I want those to become practice and become um, become used by boards in your governance practices because they help the board actually to guide their work. And so the strategic plan is great at the strategic level. It's going to help you guide your goals and your orientation for the organization and guide the team, but there are so many more objects, tools to help guide you and to plan and to direct the board that sometimes get missed. And those things are going to help build focus within the organization, and they're going to avoid staying like, the same meeting over and over and over again, talking about the same things, staying in the same ruts as usual. So you're going to want to define those tools, what kind of tools that you're going to be developing and meeting, and then you're going to set the I guess the calendar or the schedule for when you're going to use those tools and when you're going to be implementing them. So it doesn't have to stop at the strategic plan. I want you to make sure that you have other tools that help guide you. Policies. Do you have a finance policy? When are you reviewing it? When are you getting your reporting done? When are you getting the information you need to make effective decisions at the board? If you don't have policies guiding that, then you might want to suggest that to your board. And if you're needing support with that, give me a call, because you're going to want to make sure that you have them. All right. The third one is lack of implementation. So lack of implementation is super important. So if you're creating all of these tools, the strategic plan included, but all of the policies and all of the calendars and all of the education schedules and the financial schedules, well, then you better make sure that you're implementing them, because then you're going to say like, oh, we created these things, and then you're going to be uncertain. You're going to be unsure on how the results are going to be achieved, and then that could lead to a board being disengaged. Honestly, like if I'm building all of these things and I hear that there are policies and strategic plans in place, and then I'm not seeing the results of those things, and I'm not sure how it's being implemented, I'm going to lose confidence in the work that we're doing. So you're going to want to make sure that you have proper implementation. How do you do that? Clear delegation. Clear delegation to your CEO, but also to committees. You're going to want to make sure that those committees are really putting in place the things that the objectives that you had, so that you can come back to the board and make decisions. So that work at the committee level is super important too. You're going to want to establish clear timelines. You're going to want to do, that scheduling of when you're reviewing your reporting, when you're going to delegate, when do you want results back. And those results are going to help you as a board to make effective decisions on budgets, on strategic goals, on finances, on risk assessments, on audits, all of those things, even on like the evaluation of your ED and the effectiveness of the organization. So those are super important. So implementation means creating a, a, um, a delegation to your CEO, your committees, or whoever is going to be responsible. So it's super important. Take that into consideration. It's going to build confidence within your board that things are getting done. The final step, the final mistake that I'm going to talk about, and super important, and I have sat in a board where I've questioned this, and I've also sat on a board where I feel super satisfied with what's happening. I know that we delegated, it's coming back, we're monitoring the results. I feel good that we have achieved things as a board. Now, how are you going to make sure things are done? Well, you're going to ask for reports. If you have policies, you're going to ask for regular reporting. If you have a strategic plan, you're going to ask for an operational plan and you're going to validate it and say, yes, this is how we want to measure. All right. The other thing is you're going to ask for data. You know, it's important to be able to make decisions. What kind of data? Those will be established in your policies. And then you're going to delegate that to your CEO or your committees or your teams and make sure that you're getting it so that when you're sitting at the board, you're not just like rubber stamping, you're just not listening to another presentation on something you're not sure where it comes from. You're going to want to make sure that it's all tied into things that you have set as your guiding principles within the board, your tools, your policies. All right. So that's going to build satisfaction. Imagine if you go through all of that process and then in the end, you see the results. And it doesn't mean that the results are always good. The results could be, oh my goodness, we need to adjust. This wasn't right, or we're not getting the results that we need. How are we going to find the resources? How are we going to readjust our planning and the idea that we had for these objectives? We need to readjust. And again, something else at L&D Solutions is I want to emphasize the readjustment, reevaluating of plans and policies and procedures, strategic plans, even if it's a 3-year strategic plan, to come back to it, evaluate it, reevaluate it, and see if you need to adjust those things. Were the indicators that we gave ourselves the right indicators? And were the timelines that we gave each other at that time when we created it the right timelines? And the financial resources, all of those things can be reevaluated and relooked at if you're monitoring properly, right? So that's the fourth thing, the monitoring properly. You're going to feel satisfied. You're going to feel effective as a board if you're reviewing those things. Again, it doesn't mean that you're always going to achieve the objective, but at least you know where you sit with that objective and if you have to reevaluate and refocus and put other resources in place, or you drop it because it's too heavy on the organization. So those are super important, and you're going to want to do that continuously, sorry, and make sure that that is being done. So it's a cycle. And then you come back to planning, and then you go back to delegation, and you come back to monitoring, and so on and so forth. And that, for me, are some of the biggest mistakes that are being missed, and you're going to want to make sure that those are being done. So if you're sitting at a board and you're like, yeah, we're doing that, but we're not necessarily delegating, or I'm not really sure, I feel uncertain, or I'm not really satisfied with knowing all of the results that are coming to me. I don't have the information that I need to make the decisions for the next strategic plan, or when that policy rolls around and we get a report, how do I know that it's really being done? So I hope that this helps to identify and pinpoint certain solutions that you can bring to your board. And if you need support with that, all right, L&D Solutions, I can go in, we can work with your team, we can set, like, diagnose where these issues are coming from, and then we can put in solutions. And sometimes it's very minimal. Sometimes there's simple solutions, and your board then becomes more effective and feels satisfied and reduces confusion all throughout. So if you have any questions today, if I don't see any questions, I will, but if you're watching this on the rebroadcast, put your questions in. I'll see them and I'll be able to answer you. So have a good day. We'll see you tomorrow. We're going to talk about things you're going to want to avoid at the governance level. And I wish you a great week. Have a good day.